My name is Christina Giersch, this is Tweenhood, and today I wanted to talk about my process when designing a collection. Sometimes I end up designing collections because there's a certain story that I feel the need to tell, and clothes end up just being the medium in which I tell it. I know that I didn't post a video last week and it was supposed to be explaining my Halloween costume, but I was super busy making masks and it was my dad's birthday. But this is what I was for Halloween. I was the Mad Hatter, and it was a really personal costume in a way because I felt like, generally I feel like the diluted version of his character anyway. So that was really therapeutic in a way. But even so, I think this video topic is a pretty good extension of my last video where I was just giving context to my art, because I kind of started this channel without explaining who I was or what my portfolio looks like and why I even started in the first place and what actually brought me to developing this style. Now I'm going to be talking about my design process, which is directly related to that. So I made 3 bullet points that I think encapsulate the most important aspects to keep in mind, which is narrative on a personal level. Like, what is the story that you're trying to tell through this collection? Because you never exist in a vacuum. Everything that you do, nothing is original. Everything is a reference to something else, and anything you do is going to affect the culture going forward. So the next bullet point is context and cultural reference. The third one is consistency with brand identity. So you don't want everything in your portfolio or in your collections to just be random, and I think if you're really putting in the thought into what you're creating, everything is going to be building off of itself. All my work is kind of just an expression of the way that I interpret my life around me. I find it to be really therapeutic and helping me break down what I don't necessarily understand. There's a lot of things that are overwhelming. And then the cultural context, I'm going to be talking about some of my references. I have a pile of books over here, Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes, which is very inspirational to me because I am obsessed with the costume and the expression of like Victorian era England. It always just seems so magical to me. The next book, this is a book that my best friend sent me for my birthday. It's just the collection of the Kyoto Costume Institute, and it's a book on fashion history. It's got a lot of amazing photos. It's printed by Taschen. Oh, for instance here, there's a lot of detail shots of Victorian era costume, and that's, because I didn't study apparel or fashion, it's really helpful for me to look at images like this because everything that I know about how to build clothing is by working backwards, looking at a piece of clothing that already exists and looking at the way that it's constructed and in my mind, or even literally deconstructing it, trying to recreate it by myself. The next book is a book that my brother and his girlfriend got me for my birthday, and that is The World of Anna Sui. And she's also an incredible inspiration of mine. She's just like a New York bitch and creates the most rock and roll and crazy outfits. And whenever I need like a little bit of inspiration or a little bit of validation, and that you shouldn't ever dilute anything that you're doing to make it more commercial, there's always a space for you. This is a book that my mom got me for my birthday, and this is 20,000 Years of Fashion, and it's a very Western oriented book. It's from like the 60s or 70s or something. This book is really great because it just reminds me that there's no limit to what I can make. Back in the day, everyone was dressed to the nines and super opulent and super maximalist, and that is definitely my style, so this one is really great for that. Also, when you look at Victorian clothing, especially during the Victorian era, freak shows and circuses, they were getting really, really popular as just like a social event, something to do, because it was right after the Industrial Revolution and people were starting to have free time and they wanted to entertain themselves, and they also had a very not developed sense of morality, so people would find pleasure in watching the exposition of others, and I very much understand the immorality of it, but there's something about the costumes that these original clowns and performers were wearing that are really reminiscent of almost Renaissance garb, and they're super billowing and over the top, and the patterns are, if you look at even the way that Tim Burton designs, he uses a lot of the same silhouettes and patterns that are used in Victorian era freak shows. So everything is connected. This is why you have to know your references, because you have to know, like, throughout history, what is connecting to what and where do you exist on that timeline.